Over the last 15 years since the studio first started, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has given us fans some amazing moments and scenes throughout their entire filmography. So today, I'm going to be talking about my favorite scene from every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie starting in Phase 1.
You've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't paint.
And what do you say to your other nickname, the Merchant of Death?
That's not bad.
So kicking it off with Iron Man, it's actually amazing how well Marvel Studios pulled off their first outing in their cinematic universe, considering that while they were making the first movie in this universe in Iron Man, they didn't even have a script. They were basically making it up as they went. They improvised, they came up with things as they went along, and it gave us some really fantastic moments throughout the entire film. Whether it's the first time we see Iron Man in action as he goes and seeks his revenge in the first time in the Iron Man suit, or while he's on the phone trying to get Rhodey to get these jet pilots that are after him off of his butt, to the iconic ending when Tony tells a room full of reporters that he is in fact Iron Man.
I am Iron Man.
Or the sensational first fight scene as Tony first takes to the skies over the city of LA. But for me, I think my favorite scene in all of Iron Man is the escape from the cave. When Tony is in the Mark I and he's fighting against his captors in a life or death situation as he is trying to get out of the cave in the very first Iron Man suit that we've ever gotten to see on screen. Everything from seeing Tony's transformation while he's in the cave while he is a captive, building the suit, when you finally see him embark on his escape. I just can't help but jump to my feet, root for this guy, and pump my fist in the air every time he gets out of that land.
My turn.
The Incredible Hulk is kind of a black sheep in Phase 1. Admittedly, it's one that I skip when I watch my MCU marathon. I think it's one that a lot of you guys skip too. Be honest down in the comment section. Don't lie to me. But just because this isn't necessarily my favorite of the movies in the MCU, especially in Phase 1, I do find enjoyment in The Incredible Hulk, and there are some really fun scenes throughout this entire movie. I love in the beginning when Bruce Banner is on the run. He's trying to get away from Tim Roth's character, running over rooftops, trying to lose him through skinny alleyways. It's a lot of fun to watch. And while it doesn't necessarily have that much emotional investment, the fight between Abomination and Hulk on the streets of Harlem at the end of the film does get my blood pumping. It's a pretty good time. And it is really fun to see those monsters go at each other and just smash some things, you know? But for me, my pick for my favorite scene in this movie has gotta be when Hulk rages off at the university. It's one of the first times in the movie we actually get to see the Hulk rage out. You got the military trying to stop Hulk. He's smashing tanks together. It all ends with Tim Roth's character getting kicked across the field, smacking into a tree. The Bruce and Betty relationship through the entire first acts of this movie really doesn't hold that much of my attention, but when this scene happens, I will admit it's the most captivated I get throughout the entire film of The Incredible Hulk. Hulk! Smash! Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. return to give us Iron Man 2, and while this movie is not as solid as the first Iron Man, the first Iron Man allowed Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. and the whole cast and crew over there to kind of do more of their own thing. Iron Man 2, that's when Marvel really started to interfere a lot more, really trying to get their Avengers plan off the ground and using Jon Favreau's Iron Man 2 to do so.
I told you I don't want to join your super secret boy band.
But even though this doesn't reach the heights of the first Iron Man movie, there's still a lot of stuff to enjoy in Iron Man 2. We get introduced to Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow in this film, and she gets a fantastic hallway scene as she goes through and takes out a bunch of Justin Hammer's goons. And it's also the first time that we get to see the famous Black Widow scissors around the neck, throw the guy across the room move.
Rule number 1, never take your eye off your opponent.
Oh my God!
Which has become famous within the character throughout the entire MCU. Or the scene when Rhodey crashes Tony Stark's birthday party as he's getting drunk in the Iron Man suit, which leads to a Rock'em Sock'em Robots fight between the two friends. That's a fun scene, but I think the one that I'm gonna go with, my favorite scene in Iron Man 2, is probably when Whiplash attacks Tony on the racetrack. It's really the only time that there's any interaction between our antagonist and our protagonist. But it's also a really great scene. The way that Whiplash cuts through Tony's race car, sending him flying in the air. You've got the humor with Happy Hogan running over Whiplash a bunch of times, but really to no success. It's all leading up to the famous Iron Man suitcase suit-up scene with Tony Stark getting in the Iron Man suit and taking him out. In a sequel that's definitely a little bit underwhelming compared to its predecessor, this scene was what I was looking for in an Iron Man film.
Director Fury wants me in New Mexico.
Fantastic. Land of enchantment.
So I'm told.
Secret stuff.
Something like that.
In 2011, Kenneth Branagh brought us our Shakespearean movie in the MCU with the very first Thor. Now, I know a lot of people don't necessarily like this movie all that much. Personally, for me, I think it's the second best Thor movie. I really enjoy this film. And it's really great seeing Chris Hemsworth's first introduction as Thor in this film, especially where he's gone to in the MCU. Seeing his origin story is a lot of fun to revisit for me from time to time. And I do think there's some really great scenes in this film as well. When Thor is trying to go and get his hammer back from S.H.I.E.L.D. as he's taking out all these guys as just a regular citizen. Our first introduction to Hawkeye as well, ending with Thor not being able to lift the hammer and letting out a rage of anguish as he yells to the skies. Or the famous scene where Natalie Portman takes Thor to get some coffee. Thor doesn't understand her customs, and so he famously yells,
"This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!"
Or at the end of the film when Loki is hanging off of the Rainbow Bridge and he realizes that he will never impress his father in Odin and he lets go down into the abyss, seemingly to his death. He doesn't know that he's going to survive and get picked up by Thanos and the Tatari. It's a great emotional scene, but for me, this movie actually peaks pretty early, and my favorite scene in the very first Thor is the ambush on Jotunheim. This is really the only time in the entire movie where we get to see the full potential of Thor's powers as he goes to Jotunheim with all of his ego and his arrogance to take down some frost giants. With Loki by his side and the Warriors 3, this scene really demonstrated to me just how powerful Thor is and how powerful he could be. And I just love watching Thor throw his hammer through some frost giants.
You're big. Fought bigger.
Marvel took a risk with Captain America, the first Avenger in 2011, making it a period piece in 1940 focusing on World War II to tell the origin story of Steve Rogers. But in doing so, they allowed Joe Johnston and Chris Evans to give us some pretty great scenes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really love the first half of this film with skinny Steve Rogers. They give a lot of moments for that character to show just the heart and nobleness that he has. As well as the brains, I love the scene when all the soldiers while they're training have a chance to get this flag at the top of a pole in order to get a ride back to the base with Peggy Carter. They all try to climb up it like morons, but Steve Rogers just pulls that one screw out from the bottom. The thing comes timbering down, he grabs that flag, and he rides home with his honey. Not just showing us that Captain America is going to have the brawn, but he's also going to have the brains. He ain't no stupid guy. And as someone who likes the Captain America and Peggy Carter relationship, I do have an emotional impact when we get to the scene where Steve Rogers is forced to crash the plane into the ice in order to save the world, leaving Peggy Carter behind in 1940, unbeknownst to him as he wakes up in 2012. But for my favorite scene in this movie, I'm going to go with the scene where Captain America first wakes up from his transformation, his scientist gets shot, and he has to chase down the Nazi for the serum that he has just stolen. I love this first chase scene for so many reasons. Not just because there's some great humor infused into it as Steve Rogers is getting used to his newly transformed body, running through the streets barefoot, losing his momentum, falling and crashing through windows. But this scene is also a great way of demonstrating just the type of abilities that Steve Rogers has gained from this serum. You instantly understand the power set that Captain America has, and it's a fantastic showcase to show us just how far Steve Rogers has come as Captain America.
What do you think?
Yes, I think it works.
Which brings us to the final movie in Phase 1, 2012's The Avengers. This movie is still one of the most special theater experiences I've ever had. I could not believe my eyes when I first saw this in theaters, and there's still many scenes in this film that have stuck with me ever since. First of all, The Avengers without a doubt has some of the best Hulk scenes ever put to film. Whether you got Hulk chasing Black Widow in the helicarrier when we first get to see him fully transform. Not just the power, not just how awesome it is to see Hulk smash on the big screen, but also the fear, the horror, and pain as you see Bruce Banner's eyes transform from the sympathetic scientist into the rage monster. And the fear in Black Widow's eyes when she sees that happen before her. You also got Hulk joining the fight with the Tatari in New York City, and boy does he take out Tatari in some glorious Hulk smashing fashion.
Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
And who could forget the first time that Loki and Hulk ever met? Biggest laugh of the movie by far.
Enough! You are all of you beneath me. I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by that.
But then you got such iconic scenes, like the first time that the Avengers finally all assembled for the first time. Loki versus Captain America in Germany, as it comes to a head with Iron Man and Captain America sharing the frame for the very first time ever on screen.
Mr. Stark.
Captain?
But I think personally my favorite moment in all of the Avengers is the moment that Iron Man and Thor meet up and they fight.
You have no idea what you're dealing with.
Shakespeare in the Park? Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?
It's so much fun seeing how their powers go against and also help each other out. Like when Thor strikes a lightning bolt onto Iron Man that ends up charging his entire suit.
Power at 400% capacity.
How about that?
And of course, the fight ends with the noble Captain America coming in there and breaking it up, and we get to see the three main guys that we have watched separately in franchises share the screen for the very first time. It's a magical moment, one that I'll never forget, and it is my favorite scene in the entire movie.
If it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now.
Well, there you have it, guys. Those are my favorite scenes from every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in Phase 1. Now I pass it on to you guys. What are your favorite scenes from every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in Phase 1? Comment down below and let me know. I'd love to hear all your thoughts and opinions about that. And if you're new here and you haven't heard, we have a goal on this channel. We want to hit 2,500 subscribers before the end of the year. If you're new here and you like talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we do that over here a lot. So consider hitting that subscribe button on your way out. We'd love to have you join our little community. As always, guys, thank you so much for hearing me out, and I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.